Heartwarming revelation: billionaire divorces wife over childlessness. Unbeknownst to him, she's. Josh stood at the edge of his marble-tiled mansion, the sun casting golden rays on the meticulously trimmed hedges of maplewood. To the outside world, he was a success, a self-made billionaire who crafted his fortune from scratch, a man draped in influence and wealth. Yet, behind the impressive facade lay a painful truth: his marriage to Emma was unraveling, frayed at the seams by unfulfilled dreams and desperate whispers of what might have been. As rumors buzzed through the suburban air about his impending divorce, he felt the weight of everyone's expectations smashing against him. In those quiet moments at home, Josh often turned to the past. Though the echoes of laughter filled the halls, they felt hollow without the sound of children's voices. Emma, the woman who had stood by him through countless challenges, had long harbored a secret heartache: her struggle with infertility. Despite her quiet strength, the dreams of motherhood danced just out of reach. With each unfulfilled pregnancy test, the invisible wall between them had grown, suffocating the spark they once shared. He swore he could feel that wall in the air, a heavy weight that pushed them apart. Emma, retreating to volunteer at the local community center, found connection and solace among the struggling families seeking assistance. She flourished among single parents and veterans. Their stories of resilience hit her deep, awakening a nurturing spirit she thought she had lost. But unbeknownst to Emma, each hour spent helping others sent Josh spiraling deeper into confusion and despair. How could he explain to the world that the legacy he was expected to uphold felt like chains tightening around his soul? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Then, a crisis erupted at the community center. A fire broke out, consuming resources and leaving families on the brink of despair. As word spread throughout the town, Josh felt an inexplicable urge to help, something tugging at the strings of his heart. Racing to the center, he was met with frantic parents and volunteers, Emma standing resiliently among them, directing efforts to save what they could. His eyes locked onto her, and suddenly the weight of his choices struck him with the force of a freight train. It was then he stumbled into a room and found a letter Emma had written to fellow volunteers. In those unguarded words, he discovered her dreams of family dinners, celebrations of life, laughter echoing in their home, and nurturing bonds among the community. New tears stung his eyes. This vibrant woman had been trying to build a world filled with love, even when she felt utterly alone. Finally, he saw her. With the chaos surrounding them, Josh felt the urge to protect this incredible spirit. As they confronted each other amid the turmoil, everything came flooding to the surface: the pain, the misunderstandings, and the weight of an unspoken love that had lingered far too long between them. Standing in that moment, they teetered on the edge of something transformative, a revelation that would forever redefine what it meant to be a husband and a man. Could he step back from the gilded cage of societal expectations and embrace the chaos of real connections, of family redefined? The tension electrified the air, leaving a throbbing question lingering between them: was it too late to heal, to reclaim what had been lost? As the smoke cleared outside the community center, the night air was heavy with the scent of burnt wood and desperation. Josh remained rooted in place, staring wide-eyed at Emma as she shared an embrace with a young mother, their tears mingling, two souls bonded by fear and hope. In that moment, he felt his heart beat loudly against his chest, a sound of awakening, a cry for something more real than the facade of wealth. He finally stepped forward, pushing through the chaos, and reached for her hand. Emma turned, surprise flashing in her eyes, but then it softened, warming like sunlight cutting through the fog. He could see that half-smile, the one that had once lit up their entire home, and in that tiny gesture, he felt the walls he'd spent years building crack slightly. "I'm here," he said, his voice barely carrying above the noise. "I'm really here." The desperation in her eyes began to wane, replaced by a flicker of hope. "Josh, it's a disaster. We've lost so much." Her voice trembled, but he could hear the underlying strength, the resilient spirit that he had fallen in love with. "Emma," he interrupted softly, "let us not focus on what's lost right now. Let us think about what we can rebuild." It was as if a door had been cracked open between them. In that brief moment, the chaos around them faded, and it was just him and her, two souls amidst the turmoil, sharing a breath of possibility. The families they had always dreamed of supporting, the laughter of children they had once yearned to fill their home, all danced in the silence of their connection. "That dream," she whispered, hesitantly. "It feels so far away, like a shadow that keeps evading me." "We can catch it together," he replied, squeezing her hand tighter. The tension he felt earlier was dissipating, replaced by something richer, something worth fighting for. But even as he spoke the words, the weight of their reality lingered. Could dreams be resurrected from the ashes of despair? Suddenly, a frantic voice broke their moment. A volunteer rushed in, eyes wide with panic. "We need more hands. We're short on supplies and families are in crisis." Josh instinctively felt Emma's grip on his hand tighten, and in that squeeze, he recognized a shared mission. They exchanged a glance, a silent conversation passing between them, solidifying their unity. "Let us go," Emma urged, determination flooding her tone. Without another word, they moved toward the crowd of volunteers. Each step ignited a spark in Josh, a vivid realization that there was still so much to build, not just in the community, but between them. As the night wore on, Josh found himself laughing, planning, and organizing. He saw Emma shine, leading efforts and rallying troops of volunteers, and it reminded him of the woman he had fallen in love with, the one with fire in her spirit and love in her heart. But beneath the surface, doubts still brewed. Could they overcome the scars of their past? What if this new bond didn't hold when faced with the cold reality of their struggles? Just as hope began to take root, a familiar voice jolted him back. "Josh? I thought you were done with all this," a former business associate called out unexpectedly, the doubt evident in his eyes. In that instant, Josh faced a choice: to embrace this renewed connection with Emma and the family they might still create, or revert to the easy, affluent life that felt hollow without her. This pivotal question loomed large as he turned back to Emma, her face a mixture of hope and uncertainty. Was he ready to confront both his fears and his future? The stakes had never been higher, and every choice from this moment on would reshape their lives forever. Josh's breath hitched as he turned to face the voice that pulled him from their moment. The familiar face of Tom, a former business associate, wore its trademark air of condescension. He was dressed sharply, the kind of polished look that had once defined Josh's world. "It's good to see you, Tom," Josh managed, forcing a smile that felt foreign. He couldn't ignore the weight of judgment in Tom's eyes, the unspoken belief that he had somehow failed. He felt the prick of doubt return, tangled with the warmth that Emma had sparked in him. "I didn't expect to find you here," Tom said, crossing his arms. "This doesn't seem like your scene. Were you hoping to check a box on your philanthropy list?" The jab stung, but Josh ignored it. Emma stood beside him, her presence vital, like a protective shield. "We're here to help," she said, her voice clear and steady, echoing the strength that had so often pulled him from the shadows of his privileged life. Tom scoffed, glancing past them toward the chaos of the community center. "Help? You really think you can make a difference? Look around, Josh. This is a losing battle." Josh could feel his pulse quicken. Tom's words dredged up all the uncertainties he'd battled since the fire, the nameless fears that wrapped around his heart like a vice. "Change doesn't come easily," he said finally. "But that doesn't mean we shouldn't try. They need us." Emma squeezed his hand tighter, as if to remind him why they were there, why he had made the drastic decision to step away from comfort and delve into this fight. "Is this really what you want?" Tom continued, his arms still crossed, a smirk tugging at his lips. "1 minute you're at gala dinners, and the next you're scrubbing floors." "Right," Josh said, shaking his head, his voice rising with anger. "Because that's all this is to you? Scrubbing floors? Hey! Can you keep your voices down?" A flustered volunteer rushed past, her hair a frenzied mess of curls. The urgency in her expression broke through the tension between them. "We need help with the supply distribution on the other side. Some families are going without food, please." "And that's the priority," Emma declared, looking at Josh with warmth and determination. "This is real. Not just an event to be attended or avoided. It's about lives." She stepped away, pulling him gently forward, away from Tom's smirk. As they made their way through the crowd, the weight of the previous exchange began to lift. Each step forward transformed the murkiness of uncertainty into clarity. Josh was here for more than just redemption, he was here for a purpose. He watched as Emma directed volunteers, her natural leadership sparking action and hope. The vibrancy in her eyes ignited something within him, a burning realization that he had wanted to feel for years. The chaos around them was a struggle, but it was a struggle worth fighting for together. They reached a table stacked with canned goods, and Josh rolled up his sleeves, ready to assist. But as he worked alongside Emma, a troubling thought lingered in the back of his mind: what if he failed? What if the nightmares that had haunted them became reality once more? He watched Emma laugh at a joke shared among volunteers, her head thrown back with genuine joy, and felt an ache in his chest. He wanted that light in her life to shine bright, to stay bright. But if he couldn't reconcile his past and present, would everything they were building fall apart? Just when he thought they were gaining traction, another voice broke through. "Emma, there you are." It was Sarah, a mother they had helped in the past, her eyes wide with fear. "My family, we need you. There's been another fire at a neighbor's house. It's so bad." With Sarah's words hanging in the air, a new wave of urgency washed over Josh. Could they withstand yet another storm? Would their fight continue, or were they about to face a crisis that would test them more than ever before? Panic fluttered in Josh's chest as he exchanged a quick glance with Emma. He had just dared to find a grounding purpose, only to have the ground shift beneath him once more. The fear etched across Sarah's face felt like an electric current, igniting a sense of determination that coursed through his veins. "Where?" Emma asked, her voice steady and focused, cutting through the chaos of the room. Sarah pointed toward the back exit of the community center, where muffled voices and sirens echoed faintly. "Just past the playground. It's spreading fast. They need blankets, food, anything." Josh felt the urge to leap into action. This was it, this was why they were here. It wasn't about wealth or status, it was about people. It was about community. "Let us go," he said, grabbing hold of Emma's hand, their fingers weaving together naturally as they followed Sarah's hurried steps. They maneuvered past volunteers and donation tables, the sense of community pulsing all around them, but Josh's focus remained sharp. When they burst through the doors, the sun was setting low, casting an orange hue over the frantic scene. Flames licked hungrily at the sky, illuminating the faces of firefighters who fought to contain the blaze. Tension carved deep lines into their foreheads, sweat dripped from their brows. "Emma!" Sarah called as she rushed toward a group of parents who were wringing their hands in despair. Josh's heart ached for them, their anxiety mirrored the uncertainty that gnawed at him. "Stay here, okay?" Josh said to Emma, not wanting her to engage with flames while he checked on the children. He didn't want to cause her any more worry. "No," she replied firmly, locking eyes with him. "We're in this together. We'll figure it out as a team." Nodding, he felt a rush of gratitude. Together. That's what they had decided. He watched as Emma moved closer to the worried parents, her calm demeanor contagious. The children were huddled close, fear written on their small faces. Josh turned his attention back to the inferno. The weight of the situation pressed down on him, tempting him to withdraw. But thoughts of those who had already suffered from the previous fire pushed him forward. He stepped toward the flames, an idea striking him like a bolt of lightning. He spotted the firefighters using hoses and equipment. They weren't just fighting a fire, they were heroes. "Excuse me," he shouted, catching the attention of a firefighter catching his breath. "Is there anything we can do to help? We want to organize a shelter," or the firefighter shook his head, his expression grim. "It's too early for that. First, we need to stop this from spreading." He glanced back at the fire, determination etched on his face. "But we'll need supplies after, and the local shelters are already stretched thin." Josh glanced at Emma, her eyes bright with determination. They needed to act fast. "We can gather supplies. We have resources, food, blankets, anything. Just tell us what you need." He didn't hesitate this time. Fear was replaced by resolve. After all they had been through, after chasing shadows in their past, they couldn't step back. "Okay," the firefighter said, nodding slowly as he processed Josh's words. "If you can get people organized, we'll need everything you've got." With that, Josh felt adrenaline surge through him. He turned back to the gathered families, Emma at his side, ready to galvanize the community one more time. "Listen up," he called, raising his voice above the commotion. "We need your help urgently. Families are suffering, and we can't let them go without." Before he could finish, Sarah returned with a handful of flyers she grabbed from the center. "Everyone, we need to spread the word. Let us unite again, start collecting supplies from our own homes. We can do this." The roar of the fire and the shouts of excitement filled the air as people began to rally, their fears transforming into resolve. But even as hope blossomed around him, an unsettling thought tickled Josh's mind: could this effort pull them together or rip them apart? Would his and Emma's purpose stand the test once more? As they began to mobilize, one thought loomed large. If they could survive this, what else could they face together? Josh's voice rang out, cutting through the rising din of desperation and urgency. The crowd of parents, teens, and volunteers buzzed with a mix of fear and excitement, a strange synergy igniting between them. As he watched them gather supplies, Josh felt hope surge within him, tempered by the weight of their shared concern. Emma stood by his side, her hands gripping flyers that fluttered like birds in the wind. She was organizing teams with an infectious energy, a beacon of light in the chaos. "We need more people to spread out and talk to neighbors," she called out, encouraging families to mobilize. Her determination was a lifeline, pulling Josh closer to the moment's gravity. They began to break into small groups, their hearts set on one common goal. Josh, enlisting the bravest faces, ventured down the street, calling on homes that were close by. The fiery glow of the flames danced behind them, casting ominous shadows that seemingly threatened to engulf the world. "Hey! We need blankets and food. Anything you can spare," Josh shouted, ingraining urgency into his voice. He knocked on door after door, faces peeking out from behind curtains, hesitation giving way to compassion as they gathered their supplies. "Don't forget to knock harder. They're scared, not heartless." Emma's laughter floated through the air, breaking the tension that had begun to creep in. He caught her infectious spirit, and for a moment, they were just two kids from the neighborhood, racing to help their own. But as they continued to gather, an unsettling thought kept creeping into his mind. As fierce as their resolve was it enough? The flames were still raging, licking at the nighttime sky, and there was the lingering fear that no matter how hard they fought, they might still lose this battle. They returned to the community center, a flurry of limbs and voices colliding, dirted hands full of supplies. Josh and Emma had rallied a small army, but as he looked around, he sensed anxious eyes still darting back to the fire. "Keep moving. We need to keep this going," Emma urged, determination still lighting her features. "We can't stop until everyone is safe." But there was a stirring unease in Josh's heart, a knot tightening in his gut. He began to understand that this wasn't merely about the fire. It was about the bonds that either strengthened or frayed under pressure. As supplies piled high, Sarah knelt down beside him, a solemn look on her face. "What if it's too late?" she whispered, voicing the fear they all felt. Josh clasped his hands together tightly. "We can't think that way. We have to believe we can help. We have to believe in this community." Just then, a cacophony of sirens broke through, red lights flashing as emergency services pulled into view. The firefighters, still fighting valiantly to contain the blaze, now seemed like weary titans, their strength tested with every ember they battled. "Help is here, everyone!" Josh shouted, raising his arms to galvanize the crowd. "But they still need our support. Let us stabilize our community until this is over." But just as determination surged in the air, the unexpected happened. A woman stumbled forward through the gathering crowd, her face pale and voice trembling. "My daughter. She's still over there. They're saying the playground is getting worse." Josh felt the blood drain from his face. Panic flooded the scene, memories of another disaster overlapping, haunting and visceral. Emma grasped his arm, fear flashing across her eyes. "What do we do?" The urgency of the moment coiled tight in his chest as he looked towards the flames. The community's strength hinged not just on support. This was a matter of life and safety. Could he really do anything? Gripping Emma's hand tighter, he resolved. They had to go back, confront the growing danger head-on. But what if this time, the weight of their actions was too much to bear? "Stay here with the group," he shouted over the commotion, racing forward. Behind him, he could feel the uncertain gaze of every person, hopeful yet fearful. Did he really have the power to lead them amidst chaos? With every step toward the blaze, his heart thundered. This wasn't just about the supplies or the fire, it was a test of their unity and courage. And as the flames roared higher, one question seared into his mind: when the moment of truth arrived, would he rise to meet it, or crumble under the weight? Josh's feet pounded against the ground, his heartbeat echoing in his ears like a drum. The heat from the flames intensified as he drew nearer, and he could almost taste the desperation hanging in the air. Emma's grip on his hand was firm, but Josh could feel her pulse racing, mirroring the storm of emotions raging within him. "Wait!" Emma called out, tugging him back for a moment. "We can't just rush in blindly. We need a plan." For all of Emma's bravery, Josh couldn't help but feel a surge of irritation. They were out of time. He needed to move, to do something, anything. The woman's cry for her daughter echoed in his mind, a reminder of what was at stake. "We don't have time," he replied, frustration leaking into his voice. "Those kids are counting on us." But as he looked into her eyes, he saw fear mixed with determination. This wasn't just about them, it was about everyone who had come together to fight this fire. If they were going to face the inferno, they'd need to be smart about it. Okay. Let us figure this out," he said, forcing a breath to ground himself. "We should get a few more people to help. Maybe we can create a route in, circle around the back. That way, we can split the risk." Nodding, Emma scanned the crowd, her eyes landing on a few teenagers nearby. They seemed game for action, their adrenaline high from the chaos around them. "You guys. Come here," she called, waving them over. Josh felt a flicker of renewed hope. They weren't alone. As the teens gathered, he quickly explained the plan. "If we work together, we can check the playground and see if anyone needs saving," he added, his voice steady now. "If anything goes wrong, we'll backtrack. We stick together, understood?" They all nodded, their faces set with resolve. The little girl's mother watched nervously, tears streaming down her cheeks, her pleas still ringing in his ears. He couldn't let her down. All right, let us do this. Josh shouted, and with Emma Boulding leading the way, they surged forward. The closer they got to the blaze, the more Josh's focus sharpened. He could feel the heat on his skin and hear the roar of the flames, almost like a living thing hungry for destruction. He rounded the corner, staying low to avoid the gusts of smoke that billowed and twisted around them. Fear twisted in his stomach, but this was about courage, and he refused to waver. As they approached the playground, towering flames danced dangerously close, threatening to engulf everything in their path. The sound was deafening, crackling and popping as the fire consumed the wooden structures. And then, he heard a soft whimper. "Over there!" he shouted, gesturing toward the darkened corner of the playground. A small figure crouched behind the slide. Relief flooded his chest. We've got to move quickly. He didn't think, he just acted. With the teens flanking him, Josh dashed toward the sight a terrified child, eyes wide and filled with tears. "Hey! It's okay. We're here to help you," he called, his voice wrapping around the child like a reassuring blanket. The child blinked, unsure. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed as a nearby tree cracked and splintered under the heat, collapsing to the ground with a resounding thud. "Go! Go!" Emma yelled, pulling the child's hand as Josh pushed forward. The flames roared, eager to claw at them, as they stumbled back toward safety. But as they fled, the ground trembled underfoot. Josh's heart raced, painfully aware that this was the climax of their fight. They had to get out, to save as many as they could before the darkness swallowed them whole. In the distance, he spotted the mother, her eyes wild with worry. "We're coming!" he shouted, urging everyone forward. Suddenly, something gripped his ankle, pulling him down. It was a piece of the earth collapsing as the fire raged. Josh struggled to break free, his mind racing, fear gripping his heart. "Josh!" Emma screamed, her voice drowning in the chaos. And just like that, he was faced with a choice to fight against the all-consuming fire or to lose everything. Would he let despair pull him into the flames? Or could he fight back and pull them to safety? The decision burned sharper than the flames surrounding him. The weight of despair crashed down on Josh as he realized the ground had given way beneath him. He felt the heat of the fire creep closer, licking at his skin, and in that moment, time seemed to stretch. Emma's panicked face was a blur, but her voice echoing with desperation snapped him back into action. "Just hold on!" Emma shouted, her grip still tight as she leaned down, reaching for him. Josh gritted his teeth and pulled, even as fear slithered around him like smoke. He couldn't go down like this, not now, not when so many were counting on him. With an effort that sent pain shooting through his ankle, he managed to kick free from the debris that ensnared him. A moment later, he was on his feet, wobbling slightly before regaining his balance. He glanced at Emma, who looked ready to tear through the flames if it meant helping everyone. Her bravery inspired him. He breathed deep, fortifying his resolve. "Let us go," Josh urged, the fire crackling ominously at their backs. He turned and bolted towards the little girl, who was still clinging to Emma's hand, wide-eyed and trembling. They needed to get out now. The path back seemed even more treacherous, the flames snapping and roaring like beasts ready to pounce. As they dashed back toward safety, the acrid smell of smoke stung Josh's nostrils, and the heat wrapped around them like a heavy blanket. He could hear the wails of sirens in the distance, but they felt miles away, lost in the chaos consuming their world. "Keep moving," Emma shouted, gently pushing the child ahead with a steady hand, her voice breaking through the noise with an urgency that rang true. Then it happened, another loud crash, this time closer. A section of the playground twisted and fell like a giant collapsing under the weight of flames. Josh stumbled, his mind racing. Would they fall victim to the fire before they even had a chance to save anyone? "Out of the way!" he shouted as he yanked the child forward. His heart ached as the little girl's body trembled. She looked so small next to the towering flames. But her grip on Emma's hand was fierce, unwavering. Just a bit more. Josh called, sensing the urgency of their situation, pushing himself to sprint harder. With one last burst of energy, they rounded a corner and dashed into a small clearing. The mother stood there, wide-eyed and trembling, watching as they emerged from the inferno with her daughter in tow. "Mommy!" the child cried, rushing into her arms. Josh felt a wave of relief wash over him, but it was tinged with anxiety. They weren't safe just yet. The flames still roared behind them, hungry for destruction. "Get back!" Emma shouted, wrapping her arms around the girl and her mother, ushering them further away. But another sound caught Josh's attention, a low rumble, one that sent his heart into his throat. He turned just in time to see the nearest corner of the playground begin to collapse, the fire consuming everything in its path. "Run!" Josh shouted, instinctively grabbing Emma's hand. The teens they had rallied looked to him wide-eyed, panic rising in all their hearts. But instead of fear, he felt something else, a surprising clarity. He was alive, and they had a chance. As they sprinted forward, Josh realized something monumental: fear could only contain them if they let it. They could fight back, together. They needed to escape, yes, but they could also stand and fight for what mattered. With one last glance over his shoulder, Josh shouted, "We're getting everyone out." The ground trembled again, and he could feel the heat from the flames on his back, spurring him to push faster. But amid the chaos, a flicker of hope ignited in his chest. They had found the little girl, they had made it this far. Would they escape the flames, or would they turn and fall to the fire's grasp? Only time would tell, but they had to keep moving forward. As they pushed through the thickening smoke, another crash echoed through the air, a game-changer. "Look out!" Emma screamed as debris rained down. Could they dodge the falling chaos, or was this the moment they would finally face the flames' fury head-on? The sound of splintering would slice through the air. Josh's heart raced as he grabbed Emma tighter, their feet pounding on the cracked pavement. He could feel the ground tremble beneath them, and for a heartbeat, all he could think about was the weight of the seconds passing by. They needed to move. "Over here!" a voice called out from the smoke. It was one of the other teens, Simon, waving frantically from further ahead, near a small gap in the fence. Josh's eyes were burning from the smoke, but he could barely make out Simon's determined expression. Without a second thought, he propelled Emma and the little girl towards him. "Go! We're almost there." The smoke thickened, curling around them like a sinister serpent. Josh felt the heat intensify, biting into his skin, but he pushed it all aside. With every step, he willed the weight of despair to lighten. He had to focus, to be a beacon for those around him. As they rushed toward Simon, Josh risked a glance backward. Flames roared like angry beasts, devouring every inch they could reach. Their relentless advance made a chill dance down his spine, but he silenced the part of him that screamed to turn and flee. "Come on, we can make it," he shouted, steering Emma and the girl toward the gap, just as another crash resonated behind them. They were so close enough to feel the cool night air beckoning at the edges of the smoke. When they reached the fence, Josh turned to check on the little girl. Her wide eyes were filled with fear, and a pang of protectiveness surged through him. "You're going to be okay," he said, dropping to one knee. "Keep your eyes on me and we'll get you out." "Mommy?" the girl whispered, her voice barely audible above the chaos. "She's right there." "Just a little more," Emma chimed in, her voice steady. With a firm shove, Josh squeezed through the gap, pulling Emma and the child behind him. The world outside felt like a rebirth. The cool air hit his face, pulling the heat away just enough for him to breathe again. But his heart was still racing, the thrill of survival battling with the echoes of destruction behind them. "Are we safe?" the girl asked, looking up at Josh with those innocent eyes, shimmering with tears. "Almost," he said, scanning the surroundings. We just need to get away from this place. Behind them, the playground continued to succumb to the fire's insatiable hunger. Josh could see other people gathering, sharing frightened looks as they processed the devastation. He turned to Emma, whose eyes sparkled with unshed tears. He didn't know what to say. "Josh," she began, taking a shaky breath. "What if we lost them? What if we couldn't save everyone?" He squeezed her hand, the warmth pouring from their connection comforting amidst the freezing fear. "We can't let that happen. We need to keep moving. We'll find a way to help everyone. Together." "Together," she echoed. As they started to lead the little girl away from the collapsing remnants of the playground, sirens wailed louder, cutting through the air like a knife. But amidst the cacophony, Josh felt a swell of determination rise in him. They had each other. They could face this storm. "Look!" Simon shouted, gesturing wildly. "There's a fire truck. We can get help." Josh's heart glimmered with a new hope. Maybe they could save others. As they raced towards the truck, something shifted in the air. An unexpected moment of clarity washed over him. He understood now what was truly at stake. But then he felt a sudden jolt that sent him tumbling to the ground. Emma's scream reached out to him as darkness loomed ahead. Could they overpower the flames yet again, or was this the moment when everything shattered? Josh blinked, the world spinning as he hit the ground. The impact jarred him, knocking the air from his lungs. Struggling to catch his breath, he heard Emma's panicked voice, sharp and desperate against the roar of the flames. "Josh! Josh!" A moment later, he felt a hand on his shoulder, pulling him back into the chaos. It was Simon, his face pale but alive with urgency. "Get up. We gotta go." With a grunt, Josh pushed himself to his feet, the ground still shaking beneath him. He could taste the ash in the air and feel it coat his throat. Emma stood nearby, eyes wide with fear. The little girl had slipped from their hold, now crouched on the ground, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Come on!" Josh shouted, reaching for the girl. "It's okay, I've got you." He knelt beside her, wrapping a strong arm around her waist and lifting her off the ground. She clung to him tightly, her small body shaking. He turned to Simon and Emma, both of them searching the area for more familiar faces, more friends who might be lost in the chaos. "Where's everyone else?" Simon yelled, glancing back at the roaring inferno. "We have to find them. Let us get to the truck first." Josh replied, his eyes flicking to the fire truck that was finally making its way through the crowd. Firefighters were jumping out, their faces grim but determined. It was the first real promise of safety Josh had seen all night, and it felt like a lifeline in the storm. "Help is here," Emma shouted, starting to move towards the truck. The little girl clung tighter to Josh, tears soaking his shirt. He could feel her fear mirrored in his own heart, but he didn't let it show. They needed hope. They needed to move. The flames lit up the sky behind them as they sprinted toward the vehicle. The heat pressed against their backs, intensifying the urgency of their escape. Josh felt the adrenaline coursing through his veins, fueling him as he urged the girl to keep her head down. Just a little further. They reached the fire truck, the muffled voices of firefighters breaking through the crackling sounds of destruction. One of the firefighters spotted them and rushed over, his face a mask of concern. "Over here. Come with me," he called out, extending a hand towards the little girl. "I'll take her to safety." "No." Josh's voice came out sharper than he meant, panic swelling in him. "We're not leaving her. She needs to stay with us." The firefighter paused, his brow furrowed in understanding. All right. Let us get out of this fire, then we can figure it all out." They climbed aboard the truck, the shadows of nearby chaos flickering around them. Josh's heart raced not only from the exertion but from the realization of how close the flames had come. "We have to go back," he found himself saying, the words spilling from his mouth before he could stop them. We can't just leave them. What about everyone else? Emma gripped his arm. We can't go back. We have to get to safety first. But Josh was already shaking his head. We need to fight this. We've got to help. Someone might still be there, Josh, think. We don't know what's happening back there, Simon cut in. You can't save everyone. The little girl nestled against him shivered, interrupting the brewing argument. Her innocent eyes cast back to the chaos, and something in Josh broke. He could see the fear in her small frame, see how vulnerable she felt. Okay, we get to safety, he relented, his heart heavy. But once we're okay, we help bring them out, I promise. As the truck pulled away, Josh swallowed hard, the weight of despair mingling with a desperate resolve. They had survived one battle, but the war was far from over. Let us go back for them, he whispered to himself, feeling the stares of his friends at his side, at his promise to the little girl who needed them. A fire was raging in the heart of that playground, but there burned a fire in him, too, an unquenchable hope that would not falter. And as he looked into the distance, a new wave of explosions rocked the ground and everything shifted again, pulling them into another level of chaos. Would they be strong enough to confront it together? The world around them was a whirlwind of chaos as Josh, Emma, and their small crew of determined teens clung to each other amid the maddening noise. The fire truck roared away from the pandemonium, but in Josh's heart, an unsettled fire burned brighter. They had pulled a child from the clutches of the flames, yet he couldn't shake the weight of those left behind. Look at how many are here, Emma urged, her voice full of concern and clear-headed practicality. This is what we've been building towards. We're safe, and we can help coordinate now. Stay focused. But what if Josh started, feeling the weight of everyone's eyes on him? The faces of parents, friends, and volunteers swam in his mind. What if no one else made it out? The intensity of fear laced through him, taunting him into uncertainty. Josh, listen, Emma placed a calming hand on his shoulder. We can still gather resources, make a plan. We may not reach everyone right now, but together we can help those in need. He nodded, though the heaviness settled in his chest like a stone. The fire continued to roar on their backs, but he decided to push forward toward the bright lights of the fire trucks gathered against the backdrop of chaos. Within that light gleamed the hope that they'd bring once more. As they approached the nearest truck, Josh felt the energy crackle. Firefighters moved fast, dousing flames and shouting orders, their voices commanding yet reassuring. They were heroes in the midst of calamity, people who saved lives. How could he sit back when there was so much to be done? Help! He shouted, his voice rising above the din. We need more supplies, food, blankets. We need those who can help, and we need to figure out where else the fires might go. A firefighter turned, his expression softening as he registered Josh, Emma, and the little girl trembling at his side. You're right. We need a base of operations here. If we can gather reinforcements, we can focus on the main areas of trouble. Josh felt a spark ignite in his chest. This was it. They wouldn't just stand on the sidelines. They would lead. Emma, let us organize teams, Josh said, turning to her, his voice steadying. Simon, you handle outreach to those in the crowd. Let them know what's needed here. We need people to spread out. Yes. Emma's enthusiasm was electric. He saw the fire glimmering in her eyes, her strength fueled his resolve. I'll take some volunteers with me to collect supplies. We'll set up additional locations for families to come and get what they need. And I'll gather people around to help keep morale up, Simon added, determination flickering over his features. No one should feel alone right now. Josh knew their mission was about more than just extinguishing flames, it was about nurturing that incredible bond unfolding amid fear. They needed to work together. Everyone had come together before the fire had torn them apart, he could feel that unity bubbling beneath the chaos. They moved quickly, the sunset casting a warm glow tinged with shadows over their neighborhood, an uncanny contrast to the destruction they faced. He watched Emma organize the volunteers, her fierce spirit radiating, igniting those around her. It was her resilience that melted his earlier doubts, transforming his fear into resolve. "Gather the blankets," Emma directed, and people scrambled to help, their trust in her apparent with every quickened step. As the team spread out, for the first time that night, Josh felt like he was part of something larger than himself. This was not just a battle against nature but a fight for each person who called this place home, their families, their stories, their lives. At last, he felt hope surging within him, pulsing like a heartbeat. The shadows of despair that had hung over them for so long began to lift. "Josh," Emma said, returning breathless, pushing strands of hair out of her face. "We've set up a distribution center at the school. This is all hands on deck. We're going to show them that this community stands together." That conviction lit a fire in him. "Okay, let us get moving," he said. Everyone was ready. A fierce camaraderie united them, igniting a beacon of hope that blared louder than the fire's wrath. Quickly making their way to the center, they worked efficiently. Time passed in a blur of laughter, exhaustion, and sheer willpower. As parents regained confidence and volunteers found renewed energy, the atmosphere swelled with affirmation and camaraderie. They would not be beaten by this tragedy. Instead, they would rise from the ashes together. Later in the evening, after many hours of hard work, Josh found himself standing near Emma. The night had fallen, draping them in darkness speckled with the distant flicker of flames. "We did it," he said quietly, more to himself than to her. "Yes," she replied softly, her voice full of warmth. "We gathered so much. But it's still not over. We need to keep going." With surprising clarity, Josh turned to her. "I realize now, it's never truly over. It's not just rebuilding structures, it's about forging a community that truly supports one another. The lives we've touched tonight, the people we've saved, they're part of our legacy." The realization flooded through him. They had taken the first steps toward crafting the family they had once dreamed of, not only in the abstract sense but in how they approached everything from now on. "Let us keep this going," Emma added, determination mingling with hope. "When this night ends, let us turn that passion into something lasting, something that becomes part of who we are." Josh smiled, a genuine warmth spreading in his heart. Suddenly, they were not just two individuals trying to build a life. They were a team, a real family woven from shared struggles and common dreams. As he stood looking out over the flickering light, the cacophony of voices filled the air with laughter and determination. He knew their journey wasn't finished, but with each hand held, each soul supported, they could walk together along a bright new path. In that moment, hope was not just a feeling, it was a choice. A choice to forge connections that would never again be severed, through resilience, love, and unwavering determination. And as the dawn broke, Josh realized that he had not just found the strength to fight, he had discovered the essence of true connection, a family born from the heart of the community. This was their story of transformation, a fire that would burn bright for years to come. Now, don't wait not even one more second. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Your support means everything. Comment below your reactions and feelings about this ending, we want to hear from you. And of course, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.